I see. So I want to ask you this because you keep coming back to this theme, which I love. Is like, and I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to play the role of, one of these more short-sighted investors we're talking about. That it's like, well, how come my bags haven't pumped yet? Like PulseChain's not pumping enough. When, coming from that person's point of view, like, okay, Frank, everything you're saying is terrific. I'm bought in. I believe, I do believe in Richard Hart. He's got a 10-year plan. All these things. But why is Solana and Dog with Hat and all these memes and all these things popping up, and Pepe and like all these things that are kind of like capturing the crypto sphere by storm, and it's not coming into PulseChain yet? Why is that? Like, if it's so great, and if there's this long-term vision, and if people are going to value their privacy, when is that going to happen? Because I'm not seeing those returns yet. What do you say to that? Is it purely just the short-sighted nature of that investor? Or is it like maybe a minute few of us, really value what we have here in terms of free speech and freedom and things like that with this blockchain? But will anybody else ever value that, or are they all destined to just, vote for the next Democrat or politician that's going to, spy on them through their cell phone the rest of their life and enjoy it? Yeah. So what do you make of that? What do you say to that devil's advocate? Like, okay, well, when are they coming? Like, when are the investors coming in this?
Well, I think you answered your own question, right? I think the market doesn't really, it reflects the majority. So if you see meme coins are pumping and you see that all these, shit coins are moving in a direction that deep down it shouldn't be moving upwards. It has no reason to. That gives you your answer that the people that are involved right now, or the people that reflects on the charts, are not knowledgeable people who understand DeFi. Crypto as a whole is already a casino. So that means in order for the real products like true DeFi, decentralized assets to pump, the majority of true believers who understand that problem have to be overcome the retailers and the casino gamblers. That's not going to happen. Then that's not a competitive edge, because you have all the smart people that have overtaken retail. If PulseChain was the one that was pumping right now and meme coins weren't, that would just tell you that all the smart money is already in. So when are you going to exit? Or exit, right? Because I have no interest in exiting. But if the real assets were pumping, that means the smart money has discovered this is the real thing. Everything else is bullshit. I'm going to move here. And that means that the market as a whole has more true investors and believers than retailers and gamblers. So that's why I don't worry, because as long as there's more retailers and gamblers, I still have a competitive edge. That means I'm still early. Right? So that's the biggest thing, is like the market doesn't lie. Human psychology doesn't lie. People want to justify all those different things, like, why isn't this happening? The answer is really always in your face. If real DeFi assets are not pumping, it simply means that there's more retailers and gamblers and degenerates out there that don't know anything about monetary policy, the monetary inflation, what is having a dollar pegged to gold standard, all that stuff of macroeconomics. That means that they don't know anything about that, and they're just looking for a quick buck. But with the moment that it shifts, it's the moment that smart money understands, hey, this is a real deal, right? And it could be, too, speculation that smart money is, I'm going to go make a bunch of money on meme coins and then I'm going to rotate to the real thing, right? That's always a possibility, too. But I don't really think about that, because the moment that I see the real assets pumping and then the meme coins are dying, that means the market sentiment has shifted, that the smart money has understood this is a real deal, everything else is bullshit. And your competitive edge is gone at that point, because you don't have more than maybe a 2x from there. And that's for the people that want to cash out, right? I can't really speak to that audience because I can't relate to them. I don't understand why someone wants to go take their US dollar, make a 10x, and then exit the very asset that's going to be here in the future to go back to a worthless currency. That to me doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, that just goes to show you that people still value USD. I mean, I tweeted this the other day. The moment that I sell my PulseX back to go back to US dollar, it means that I value US dollar more than I value PulseX. And I can assure you, I don't. I don't value US dollar because the US dollar is not backed by anything. And I'll give you an example too. Is it really the US dollar that people are chasing? I don't think so. Because in a country like El Salvador, you can get the same quality of life for 10 times cheaper. So when people say, I want to be a millionaire, they're not really chasing a millionaire status. They're chasing the quality of life that $1 million can buy them.
Right.
So whenever people are saying I want $1 million, it's because in the United States, $1 million can get them a pretty good life. But in El Salvador, that same life you can get for 100,000. So is it really the money that you're chasing? No, you're chasing goods and services. And I think when you change your perspective of money and you stop worshiping it, like some sort of, worldly god, and then you understand why the US dollar has no value, then you start looking at things in a different perspective. And I'll give you an example. The US dollar currently is the world reserve currency of the world. Everybody else in other parts of the world, they go to US dollar to hedge against their currency. Right? So that's US dollar is their investment because their currency is depreciating at a faster rate than you can blink. So they use US dollar to store their value. But people in the US, we're just like, we don't see it that way because our currency is deflating at a rate where you only the people who understand that it's worth nothing, that they can see it. But the average person can't see it. The average person here in the US isn't going to have the same problems as the people in Colombia or Venezuela, wherever they have to spend their currency so quickly into food because if they don't spend it, the next day is going to cost them 2 times more. So they quickly go to US dollar to hedge against that. But everybody's on the same boat. The only difference is the US dollar is sinking at a much slower rate, but it's still sinking.
Yeah.
Right? So then how is it possible in the gold standard when President Nixon depegged it? Back then, $1 US equated to a certain amount of gold, so it was equally exchangeable. So the countries were able to transact freely, and they could always cash out their US dollar for amount of gold because it was pegged to it. Okay, when that depegging happening, everybody else lost hope in the US dollar because now you're printing too much, and then they can't cash out the same amount of US dollar for the equal amount of gold that was set. So when that happens, when you lose faith in the currency, well, how does the US dollar maintain its power? The US military. The US military is what backs the US dollar. So they use war and threats to basically say, you're going to have to use US dollar or we're going to stop defending whatever territory, or we're going to bomb you, or whatever it is that they're doing. They use control because they have to continue to print more money to keep up their Ponzi. That's the only way, because the US dollar is no longer pegged to anything. It's not collateralized. So if it's not collateralized to anything, it's backed by paper. So when people tell me, aren't you going to cash out your $2-3 million worth of PulseX to go back into USD? For what? To go back to paper? What do I need to spend paper for? My job gives me paper. I take the money from my job. I use that to live. And then in excess, I'm hedging the fuck out of it.
Right.
And it's the same concept that people in Colombia and Venezuela do. The only difference is they don't have the luxury of a stock market. They don't have the luxury of all these different, certain types of securities and investments. They go to US dollar to hedge out. And that's where you have to extrapolate your viewpoint to understand what money really is. Sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, it's good because I think a lot of people can't understand that. Like you were talking about, like the thought of, I want to have $1 million or whatever. And it's like, well, no, you don't really want to have $1 million. You want to have a certain kind of quality of life. And in America, and that's ever changing, obviously, like you said, with the just flattening of USD, what that will actually be able to attain you.